Woodblock prints possibly began between the 4th and 7th century AD. It began as wooden blocks used to print textiles and to reproduce short Buddhist religious texts. The text was first written on a piece of thin paper, then glued face down onto a wooden plate. The characters were carved out to make a woodblock printing plate, which was used to print the text. Woodblock required that a new block had to be carved for every page in the book, but when the stamps were complete, an expert could print 1,000 or more sheets per day. Later on, ukiyo, a genre of Japanese woodblock prints, produced between the 17th and the 20th centuries, were created as a popular art form. These prints, featuring motifs or landscapes, tales from history, the theater, and pleasure quarters, were the main artistic genre of woodblock printing in Japan. The word ukiyo is literally translated as floating world in English, because its images featured the beautiful scenery and pleasurable events instead of images of the normal and mundane world. The art form rose to great popularity in the metropolitan culture of Edo, present-day Tokyo, during the second half of the 17th century. Woodblock prints were affordable because they could be mass-produced. They were mainly meant for townsmen who were generally not wealthy enough to afford original painting. In the 18th century, Suzuki Harunobu developed the technique of polychrome, or multiple-colored printing. Harunobu is my favorite woodblock print artist. Two of my favorite prints are Crow and Heron, which depicts a beautifully dressed couple strolling in the newly fallen snow, and my very favorite print, Love on the Veranda, which depicts a love triangle in the making. Both were created by Suzuki. While today we will not be doing woodblock printing, we are going to be doing something close, a little easier and a little safer, linoleum cuts. The technique used is very similar to woodblock prints.
Today I'm going to teach you how to make a linoleum print. Here are the materials you're going to need. So we have a piece of linoleum, your woodblock cuts or linoleum tool, a marker to show up on the linoleum, a wooden spoon, a brayer, some ink, and something to put the ink on. Step 1, we have to draw our design on the linoleum. So you're going to want to use a lot of line variations. You want to use thicker lines so it's easier to cut out. But real quick, I'm just going to draw a real quick image of a rat. That's what I love. So the thinner line you use, the harder it's going to be to cut out. So these little ones are going to be a heck of a time for me. But you just want to make sure it's dark enough where you can see it against the linoleum. But that's just kind of an example, and I have something already finished. So the end product is going to be something like this.
It's always important to remember when creating a woodblock print or a linoleum print, the alt text must be backwards like this. The example is wrong, and you will figure that out towards the end when my word rat is backwards. Try to remember this when creating your design so a silly mistake like this won't happen in the end.
So step 2 is cutting your image out. You're going to want at least 2 different kind of tools to get 2 different variations. So we're going to start. Alright, so you want to go over these big lines. You want to go around the image. So you're actually leaving what you drew and you're carving around it. So it's going to take you a while to do little lines. And then for bigger areas, you're going to want to use a bigger tool. That way you can just carve out these empty spaces. A safety tip is to always cut away from you so you don't cause injury. You never want to cut towards you. You're just going to end up stabbing yourself. So this is going to take just a bit. You also want to do around the image into this base, just so you don't end up with huge splotches of ink. And a finished project would look like this. So you have the outside of the image cut, also the inside little lines. This would have took a lot longer than the outside. Alright, so step 3 is getting the ink down, and you want to get it ready and then put it on your project. So you want to start off by placing the ink at the top of your inking station. And then something you want to do is you want to make sure this is even, so you want to go across and then down. And we're going to need a little more ink. You want to make sure it's saturated, but you don't want to hear that sticky sound, so we're going to roll it out a little bit more. Too much. So then you take your project, and you want to make sure that you get the image completely filled. You want to go at different angles. And by now you know what your image is going to look like. Any space that's like this that was raised up so it actually caught the ink is called chatter. And it's not exactly a good thing, but it's not a bad thing to have either. It depends on what you prefer. So we have that all saturated. So our fourth step is actually printing your image. You're going to need your spoon and your piece of paper now. Go down to the image. So you want to place your paper actually over your image. You want to make sure that it's going to be centered where you want it. And you're going to take your wood spoon and you're going to rub it. And this is going to make sure that the ink is evenly dispersed onto the page and you don't have any weird markings. You should actually start to kind of see the ink soak into the paper. You can check to see how it's going, and I see that I need to press down a little more. You can use your hands as well. And then you just fill your image up. So there you are. You have your first linoleum print.